Alex, can you explain what Bilt Rewards is to me?
Oh
This is
my
a pop
God.
quiz.
So
I hope you studied.
well, I was gonna say like the
Yeah,
whole thing on the outline was which one of us can get to the question first, so
yeah.
we can just dump it on the other person. So congratulations, you have managed to get to that part of the outline first. Sure, I can absolutely. So, Built Rewards, for those who are not familiar, they just raised $200 million from General Catalyst and from a number of sort of other VC firms, sort of a just sort of general tech nature, it seems. The valuation is $3.1 billion, which Jason is giving me sort of flashbacks to the good old days of fintech. So this fundraise and this valuation kind of came out of nowhere to me, and like was sort of so big that I did have to pause and sort of wonder, what does Bilt do? Um, so I'm going to try to give you my best possible explanation. Bilt is essentially a sort of payments and reward network for renters. And so, as I understand it, the general idea is that they provide kind of a white label lead gen type business that's actually built on top of, I believe, Wells Fargo. And the idea is that they can drive rental payments through a card, and that Wells Fargo is sort of the partner on the back end, and Wells Fargo pays, I guess, kind of a commission or a rev share to Bilt for that. And then on top of that, Bilt has a network of landlords, property owners, and other sort of people in the general rent real estate ecosystem that are a part of this larger network. And the main value proposition to tenants that use Bilt is that they can get paid rewards for paying their rent. Bilt will sort of facilitate for these in-network rentals, and I think they're up to about 4 million units that are part of their network. The ability for users to get points. Bilt will also, I guess, facilitate even for rental units that are not in their network, sort of the transaction fees or the sort of payment friction associated with paying your rent via card, or even like mailing a physical check on behalf of a user. So it seems as though Bilt's sort of general goal is to get as many renters as possible wanting to pay their rent through Bilt in exchange for earning rewards, and then using that side of the network and the growth from that network to then bring more landlords and property owners onto the other side of the network and have them be in network properties that then create new value propositions for the rental units, as well as I would imagine other sort of additional revenue streams for Bilt. So sort of seems like a two-sided marketplace that's kind of driven ultimately by Americans' insatiable desire for rewards. And I'm sure you've seen some of the like billboards and stuff if you've been traveling around, like, earn rewards when you pay rent. That's kind of the headline value proposition, and I guess it's working. Did that answer your question at all, Jason? I don't feel like it answered your question.
Yes and no. I mean, I guess, usually, I can pull up any given fintech and within a few minutes of scrolling through the site, like generally understand like what is the economic model here? Like, how does this business work? This is one where it's like, I looked through the site, I read, whatever the current, press release was. I went back and read like previous fundraisers releases to try to understand like what exactly is happening here. And if you're, giving these end consumers, essentially cash back on rent, where is that coming from? And I feel like I have a slightly better understanding now, but it's still the math on it is still a little bit hazy. I do think, given the emphasis on the rewards on rent, and then specifically, as you described it, the landlords or the whatever real estate developers that are belonging to Bilt's platform, it seems like
Mm-hmm.
the goal over time is to attract more landlords to belong to that platform. And presumably there's some like revenue or monetization, either cost savings because they can process the payment, I would assume, directly via ACH rather than card rails or rather than mailing a physical check.
Mm-hmm.
And perhaps
Mm-hmm.
one of the TechCrunch articles mentioned that one of the revenue streams from the landlord side is essentially landlords uh, like paying for or buying points that their tenants receive, which kind of reminded me of like the classic airline model where, United is basically making money by selling miles to Chase. And that is like a major source of revenue
Mm.
for the airline partner in that scenario. Um, I mean, I did stop and
Mm-hmm.
wonder. I'm like, why? And I guess maybe this is a sign that I've finally grown into my home ownership. But I'm like, why do landlords need to give their tenants points? Isn't living there the whole point? Like, what is
Yes.
the point incentive? Like, you signed a lease, like you have to pay. Like, I actually don't totally understand why the landlords need this points incentive for their tenants, particularly given like the current housing climate in the U.S., where you're lucky if you have anywhere to live. Why do they need to hand out points as an incentive? But I guess it certainly seems like they're appealing to this like premium. The SoFi days we would call it like the Henry tier, like high earner, not rich yet. Where it's like, oh,
Mm.
okay, like do you live in like a
Mm-hmm.
fancy high rise rental in like San Francisco or New York? And you make a lot of
Mm-hmm.
money, but your rent is probably also a lot of money. And you are like a savvy, young millennial or elder Gen Z that wants to optimize that. And like this feels squarely aimed at that audience, which makes sense. I mean, I'm not,
Mm.
an expert on residential real estate. Um, but given that most properties just by count are like small mom and pop landlords, but the sort of luxury buildings that you're going to find in like a New York, a San Francisco, that are sort of new developments and appealing to, that sort of, yeah, high earning, whatever, urban millennial Gen Z, do tend to be owned by big real estate conglomerates they're probably more easily lend themselves to this kind of rewards program. So I'm not going to pretend that I understand how the economics on this work because I still don't. But it does seem, I mean, the biggest question I had was like, do they take credit risk? Like, are they actually originating the credit associated with this? And the answer to that does seem to be no. Like, it basically seems like a white label Wells Fargo card. And what Bilt is doing,
Mm.
as I understand it, caveat, is building and operating this rewards network.
Yeah, yeah. No, that seems to be true. I mean, from what I can tell, like kind of glancing through their website as you did, I mean, they very much have like a points guy sort of aesthetic, right? So it's very reminiscent of like the points guy, Chase Sapphire, like it's that vibe. So that's clearly who they're sort of appealing to. Finally you can get points for paying your rent, which I'm like you, like the few times that I've rented, I was like, I'm just happy to have a place to live. I didn't think I also got points or had like an expectation of that, but times have apparently changed. And the big distinction seems to be in network versus out of network. So in network is, hey, if it's one of these property owners, like you're saying, maybe in like a big urban area that's part of this big like property management company, we're already connected to this. You can pay your rent through the Bilt app. You can use any number of different payment methods. You earn rewards. It's all in network. It's easy and presumably sort of monetized on the back end, as you were saying. Or alternatively, for anyone who's out of network, these little mom and pop shops who don't think you deserve points on your rent, get the Bilt MasterCard, which is, I believe, Wells Fargo under the covers, you're saying, use that to pay your rent, and we will, on behalf of you, mail a check or whatever it takes to pay your landlord, and you can also earn points that way. So, sort of an in network and out of network approach for hooking as many people into rewards and then using, I guess, the appeal of like Bilt customers and who they are and like their expectation of points as leverage to continue adding more property managers to their network. So I guess it's your classic sort of solving a cold start problem. Again, I mean, I haven't gotten to look at the numbers under the hood, but seemingly some investors got to see it and thought it was worth pouring a lot more money into. So good for them.
Should we get to our can't let it go and wrap it up for the day?
I am excited to hear your can't let it go.
Okay.
Why don't you go first?
So